Sick of towing party lines across the great divide. Sick of human hearts reduced to red or blue. There are still often times my thoughts of you are cardboard cutout lies. It's so much simpler if the parody is true. It's so easy to believe it's really you. It's so easy to believe it's really you. And I refuse to buy into this tired narrative that anyone who doesn't run with me is a fool. And I believe together we could build a better bridge that spans the breadth of stars connecting me to you. And why is it so hard to just remember that you have a past, a face, a heart, a name? Oh, it's so hard to just remember that we are less different than we are the same. I have to try. I have to try. So I refuse to buy into this tired narrative that anyone who doesn't run with me is a fool. And I believe together we could build a better bridge that spans the breadth of stars connecting me to you. Oh, I refuse to buy into this tired narrative that anyone who doesn't run with me is a fool. Oh, and I believe together we could build a better bridge that spans the breadth of stars connecting me to you. I close my eyes. There's a question deep inside. Will you guide me through the night? Will you calm the storms of my life? All these walls are built to comfortable, and the world outside is loud. When the voice I trust is fear and doubt, I don't need your guidance now. All my walls and my defenses fall to the ground. When the warmth
We're happy you're here today, whether you're joining in person or online. Please stand so that we can sing together. I have closed my eyes, I have clenched my fist, I have shut my heart, you have opened it. I have wandered far away, but you were already there.
have a seat. My name is Matt, and there we go. My name is Matt. I'm the lead pastor here at Watershed. Thank you for being here. Woo! 18 years ago, tomorrow, myself and a ragtag bunch of folks showed up in a little amateur theater in Uptown, and it was the first Sunday morning of Watershed. So tomorrow, we turn 18 years old. Yeah, go ahead. You can applaud to that. We were almost going to celebrate today, and I'm so glad that we are pushing it out to next week because the weather would not have been cooperative this morning or this afternoon. But next Sunday, there's going to be something really special. It's going to be a little different as we move through our morning together, and then there's a party on the lawn afterwards. Spread the word. Tell your family, tell your friends, tell your neighbors. Tell the people you don't like. Have them come on out anyway, you know. And then if you're brand new with us, we hope you come back. Also, a couple of things that I want to invite you into. There's something called mindfulness and meditation that's going to start taking place here. I think it starts either this week or next week. It's on a Monday night in this space, and it's this fusion of meditation and yoga. Lauren Moore, who's been doing this with us, her and a couple other folks have been helping us do this throughout the course of the last 18 months or so. If you're interested in sort of this meditative practice that includes yoga, it's very inclusive, depending on where you are in terms of your yoga practice, whether you're a beginner or whether you've been practicing for a while. It's just one of the best things that we offer here, I think. And you can sign. I see people pulling out their phones. I'm liking that. So go ahead and sign up for that. Also, just a quick mention. If you're new or if you've been thinking about it, Preface gets started a week from Wednesday. That's an experience that helps folks that are brand new begin to explore what it means for their spiritual or religious past or present to come into some sort of integrative experience here at Watershed. It's a lot of fun. It's 4 weeks long. I facilitate it. Hope you can join us. You can go on our website and sign up for that as well. And then also, if you're brand new and you're like, I'd love to meet some folks, we kind of hang around afterwards on a Sunday morning, but once a month, regionally, we get together. And so regional collectives are tonight. If you're already a part of a regional collective, please RSVP. If you're not just if you're going, but even if you can't go, that helps the host kind of know what's going on. And there's a QR code for that as well. Or you can, if you're already in a regional collective in the Watershed app, you should be able to go in your messages feature and respond there in terms of an RSVP. Also, we have a very exciting announcement to make this morning. I guess it was about 8 or 9 months ago, Blair Gore, who is our family ministries pastor, she and I started this conversation about how do we begin to resource student ministries more robustly? What does it mean to channel resources and energy and leadership into that space, especially as we head into the fall, as we head into 2024. And we're really trying to figure all this out, and every month we would check in around that idea. Well, it was about in July, I think, late June, early July, somewhere along those lines, where Blair ended up being introduced to someone who's been a part of Watershed in and out over the last 4 or 5 years, who has all the credentials, all the experience, and loves this community deeply, has a resume of experiences that include being a youth pastor, both locally and I think maybe even beyond here, but certainly in Charlotte. And we started talking, and it's like, all right, what if we took 4 months in the fall, and would you experiment with us on that front? And so I want to introduce you to Madeline Comer. Give it up for Madeline this morning. Madeline has agreed to step into this exploration, this experiment that I think is just going to go great. And she's going to be working with our junior and senior high students as an associate youth pastor here moving forward. And could you give us a quick rundown, just to help us get to know you? And I'd love for you to share with our community why you said yes, why Watershed.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm Madeline. I have been living in Charlotte since 2017. I moved here for a different ministry job. Actually, let me pass it over to you guys so they can try to pretend it was Charlotte. But I have loved this community. My roommate introduced me to it at the time, and so I've lived in and out. I've done practice with Matt and lots of other fun people who some of them don't live here anymore, some of them still do. So when Blair approached me about the opportunity, it was an
Yeah, that picture right there. A dog person. You've done preface twice.
So every time, I like to say, every time I need a new friend, I would come back and do preface.
That's a great plug. Thank you. Thank you for stepping into this with us. I know the next 4 months is just going to be a wild ride. We're looking forward to you working with our students, getting to know the families of those students. Our staff is super. Her first staff meeting is Tuesday. We're so freaking excited. So yeah, thank you for being here and thank you for doing this. Go ahead and have a seat because I've got one more announcement to make. So while all of this is germinating, Samantha Cordellini, who is our Director of Communications and Creativity, first part of August, came into my office, closed the door, and had this look on her face. I'm gonna try not to cry, but said, "Hey, I know we've been talking about this for a while, but you know that job in design that I've really been looking to grab hold of? It's actually a possibility now." And so we've been working on a transitional plan for her to go to a part-time level and still be a part of our team for as long as we can keep her. And then eventually she's going to transition into more of a contractual part of what we do here. If you've ever watched, any graphics that you see here are because of her genius, her creativity. And I know so many of you, especially if you work with blocks or regional collectives, you understand the brilliance she's breathed into this place in terms of technology and systems and things of that nature. So that happened on like a Wednesday, and we immediately posted it for about a week and said, is anybody out there within our community? Let's start within our community and see if something surfaces. And within a couple of days, all of a sudden there's conversations with someone who I've kind of been having my eye on for about a year. Dominique Johnson. If you come on up, Dominique, give her a round of, yeah. So Dominique is heavily involved. She's the executive director of ICU Talks. Director of Operations. Don't take that from my bad. No. Sorry, Freudian slip there. You know, Kim, I will. If Kim's listening or watching, it's lighting up in the comment section for sure. Is heavily involved in leadership through that experience. Has all kinds of. She checks every box we need checked in terms of just the skills and experience. And she's going to be joining us at a part-time level. Wait a minute. You've already joined us at a part-time level. Yeah, you're 2 weeks-ish into the experience, has already been a part of our staff, and we wanted to make that announcement. And can you take just a minute, help us to get to know you, and why did you say yes?
Absolutely. Well, hi, Watershed. My name is Dominique Johnson. My husband and I are from Charlotte. We're neighbors, ones. We live in Cornelius, North Carolina, with our beautiful 9-year-old daughter, Kendall. I said yes to Watershed because you all make me feel comfortable. I come here and you accept me, you affirm me, and you make me feel welcome, and so that's why I say yes.
Well, and you reflect that same sort of disposition and presence to so many people. We've been watching you do that through ICU Talks and when you've been a part of what's going on here. It was interesting. We started the interview process the second week she was in preface. So like there was like this really wild experience of watching you go through some of what that experience entails while simultaneously really being able to deep dive through the interview process. We're absolutely excited that you're a part of this. Our staff meeting is really going to get fun this week. Will you give both Dominique and Madeline a big round of applause? That's a bit of a segue into just a moment of gratitude. Both of these decisions carry financial influence. It's like, all right, we're coming out of this season where things have been difficult financially. We're not out of it yet, but what is the trend? Where is it pointing? And can we step into this and really step into it with faith and say, all right, what does the next 4 months look like and beyond that? Because the bottom line is there's a groundswell here, gang. If you haven't realized that yet, there's so many new people coming each week. And so those of you who have raised their hand and said, we understand what's at stake here. Animating hope in the world. creating an alternative to what we grew up with in a way that is loving and kind and generous and accepting and including and stands in solidarity with folks and with initiatives that make the world work for all of us, not just a few of us. That's the thing that you're saying yes to when you sign up and you say, I want to be a part of this financially. And so there's real easy ways to do that. There's QR codes on the back of your seat. There's a campaign that we engaged back in May and June as we're trying to recover from some setbacks due to pandemic and things of that nature. If you're interested in joining the generous movement here at Watershed, there's ways to do that in a recurring fashion, a one-time gift, matching gifts. Right now, we have a goal to raise an additional $6,000 more a month. We're probably, I think we got about 5,000 of that raised. Over the next 2 months, we got to try to generate that last $1,000. So if we can get a few more folks increasing something or stepping into it for the first time, that's going to be super important. We've got some folks who have been renting space from us to the tune of about $8,000 a month. And between November and February, all of those folks, their lease comes to an end, and all of those resources are going to go with them. So that is a very real reality that we're stepping into. And so you're partnering with us, or you stepping in this because this is your community, this is your home, is super helpful. We're incredibly grateful, and thank you for doing that. There are so many new people here this morning. And so I am like, I've already kind of just like made my way around the room like, hey, how you doing? What's going on? Can we stand up for a moment and just greet each other and do whatever it is that is comfortable, fist bump, elbow bump, shake a hand. Introduce yourself to someone. Thanks for being here this morning. I think that's as good as I could. All right.
Matt mentioned that tomorrow is the anniversary of Watershed, and 8 years ago we sang this song at a 10-year anniversary for Watershed. This song is done by an artist, Sleeping at Last, and it really was for a season kind of the soundtrack to deconstruction. And I'm not going to say too much because David's going to talk about it later, but this song is called Saturn.
taught me the courage of stars before you left. How light carries on endlessly, even after death. With shortness of breath, you explain the infinite. How rare, beautiful it is to even exist. I couldn't help but ask you to say it all again. I tried to write it down, I could never find a pen. I'd give anything to hear you say one more time that the universe was made just to be seen by my eyes. You taught me the courage of stars before you left. How light carries on endlessly, even after death. With shortness of breath, I couldn't help but ask you to say it all again. I tried to write it down, I could never find a pen. I'd give anything to hear you say it one more time. That the universe is made just to be seen by my eyes. I couldn't help but ask you to say it all again. I tried to write it down, I could never find a pen. I'd give anything to hear you say it one more time. That the universe is made just to be seen by my eyes. With shortness of breath, I explain the infinite. How rare and beautiful it truly is that we exist.
Every tree must find its place in the sun. Without sunlight, neither a tree nor any green plant grows.
How does it grow?
Good morning. My name is David. I'm one of the pastors here at Watershed, and this is the final week of the series that we kicked off this fall season with, called The Myth of Normal. And basically, just to kind of recap, as Matt said, there's many of you who are here for the first time or have been arriving for the first time during the series. The big idea here has simply been to poke holes, undermine, debunk assumptions that many of us have, often unconsciously, around what constitutes normal or normativity, and sort of the paired with that assumption that what is normal is what is good and right. And the reality is none of us fit into or live into these myths of normativity and normalcy. And some of us experience the angst, the pressure, the discrimination of not fitting into these myths more so than others. But all of us are and need to be invited into rhythms, communities, actions, choices, what have you, that allow us to live outside of these myths. And so that's what this series has been about. Real quick, before I kind of dive in, I wanted to introduce our next series that will be kicking off in 2 weeks after next week's kind of celebration week. It is, and I think this will be a shock to no one, certainly not the men in the room, it's a series about the Roman Empire. That's not true. I was bribed to say that. No, you can throw that slide up. It's a series about something called monster theory. timely, of course, because we're heading into Halloween. Yeah, we're a little cliche like that. But this series, Shadow Work, is going to explore the monsters that we create stories about, that we create myths about, that we talk about often to repress or avoid talking about the otherness in the other, in one another, and often, maybe most importantly, in ourselves that we feel alienated by or don't know how to reconcile with. And so we're going to be looking at monster stories in the biblical text. We're going to be looking at monster stories in pop culture. I've been waiting to do a talk about Godzilla for most of my life, so that's coming. But that's kicking off in 2 weeks, and we hope you'll join us for that. Now, yeah, this is maybe where I'll start. So like Matt said, we have a bunch of new folks in the room, and one thing that hopefully if you stick around with us, and of course we hope you do, that you'll realize about Watershed is that we don't have one primary communicator here. We have a teaching team, and then even on top of the teaching team, there's other folks in the community, friends of ours who are doing similar work at churches across the country who we invite in to speak with us and for us, and there's a number of reasons for that. One of them is we want to avoid creating sort of any sort of posture of authority in any one person. We value the voices of many. Not every person who is on our teaching team is part of our pastoral staff. We have folks within the community who have other areas of expertise and experience. They show up at different identity intersections. So it's really important for us to reflect a kind of diversity, not merely around, but also inclusive of things like race, gender, sexuality, but also spiritual background, spiritual experience, spiritual expression. And so, we have people on our team who show up with not only, like I said, a diversity of identity, but also a diversity of spiritual backgrounds, of spiritual experiences, different relationships to the Christian faith, to spirituality in general, and that is reflected in the content of what we share. It's reflected a little bit in the stylistic differences between us. We have a number of good storytellers on our teaching team. I'm not one of them. We have folks who use notes and podiums. We have folks who do whatever I'm doing right now with my hands. There's a diversity, and that diversity in part is a response to the diversity that it's in the seats right now. And again, not merely a diversity around identity, which we are always striving to be more inclusive of, but a diversity around y'all's spiritual experiences. For some of you, those are traumatic experiences, and we're trying to, when I say reflect that back to you, I don't mean like, re-traumatize you, but I mean to reflect the divine, to reflect God, to reflect a spiritual experience that can be redemptive, that can perhaps reclaim some of these categories that maybe have wounded you or lost meaning. But that's not all of you. Some of you are showing up. We did a talk. This has actually sort of been the theme of all of the talks that I've done lately, but I think it's important. Did a Q&A on this during the summer, and someone came up to me afterwards, and they're like, I don't have spiritual baggage. Do I fit here? And it's like, of course you do. Of course you do. And also, congratulations. Wait, there's still time. But it's a challenge. It is a challenge. It's a challenge when we're crafting series, desperately wanting to meet folks where they're at, and knowing that, all right, if we lean too far in this direction, this could be activating for folks, but if we lean too far in this direction, this could be foreign or alienating for folks. And how do we lean into the Christian tradition, but at the same time make space for those for whom the Christian tradition doesn't resonate anymore? It's a challenge, and then it shows up liturgically, and by that I mean like it's not just in the content or the words that we say, but in the form that our Sunday morning experiences take, in the form that our midweek programs take. Many of you who have been around over the last 6 months have known that, Austin, who led this morning, has been transitioning over the course of like 4 years into some new career opportunities. And we've brought on Lewis, and both of these guys are incredible musicians. They're passionate, they're gifted, and they're different. And we're excited about that. And yet at the same time, it can be jarring. There's folks who are resonating with some of the stuff that Lewis is choosing song-wise and lyrically and even stylistically, and then there's folks who who miss what Austin brought to the table. And don't worry, Austin's not leaving. It's going to be kind of a both-and thing. And if there was one word, one phrase, one little aphorism or cliche that I think is encompassing of what Watershed is and what we want it to be, it would be that what I just said. It would be both and. But oftentimes when we're exploring something that's a both and, we're trying to piece something together like a puzzle, right? We're trying to say, okay, so this puzzle piece fits here and this puzzle piece fits here. But if you've ever done a puzzle, they can be maddening because typically, except with like your most introductory puzzles, there is one piece for every spot. You can't just you can try to do the whole square peg round hole thing and like shove the wrong piece into the wrong spot, but not only won't fit cleanly within the space available, but when you take a step back and actually look at the final product, it's not going to make sense. It doesn't make, like, whatever is on that piece of the puzzle will be out of place. A puzzle is not a good metaphor for this community. A metaphor that I prefer, that is sort of in the same kind of similar visual vein, but involves piecing together many pieces to create something more whole, would be a mosaic. And some of the most interesting mosaics in the world, if you get really close to them, oftentimes they're a mess. Not only are they a mess like visually, but often the ingredients, the pieces, are not necessarily things that are originally in their original context crafted for being used to create a work of art. And yet, you put them all together, and as you take a step back and you examine the whole, something new emerges, something beautiful emerges, and you have to be able to sort of hold the tension between, sort of what was and what is with these ingredients to see the beauty of what emerges. And that's a better metaphor, I think, for this community. The song that Austin just sang, Saturn, it's meaningful to me. He talked about the meaning that it's had for our community, and I think that's important. But in addition to that, it's particularly meaningful for me because in my own church experience, the music piece, the worship piece, has not been easy for me. Just the way that my brain is wired, the way that I'm wired, no part of the church experience, the spiritual experience, ever made me feel more alienated than the song part, the worship part, the music part. The people around me seem to be experiencing something, feeling something, getting lost in something that I was not. And for the vast majority of my life, including the majority of my life in pastoral vocational ministry, I had to battle this suspicion, this worry, this anxiety that, is there something broken in me? Is there something in me that isn't connecting with God in the right way? Because whatever is happening for these folks, or at least for whatever I can tell is happening for these folks, it certainly isn't happening for me. And it was actually coming to this community for the first time that I really felt the freedom, the permission to experience what I would call God, to experience divine, to express spirituality in a way that was both authentic to me, but at the same time wasn't sort of being imposed upon the entire room as a whole, if that makes sense. I got to, and I wouldn't have used this language at first, but I've come to use it now. I got to worship God in a way that not only made sense to me intellectually, but resonated with me bodily, physically, mattered to me. And so I kind of wanted to riff on these lyrics a little bit, because I think they are, and Austin mentioned this, I think they are true. in the way that we explore what does it mean to relate to God here. And sort of just like spoiler alert, the big idea here that I want to leave you with this morning, this is not the end of the talk, but I'm just going to tell you now because I have a tendency to meander and I might not make it back to it. The big idea I want to leave you with is there is no normal way to be part of this church. There is no normative way to relate to God. And in fact, if there is a sort of like roundabout normative way, it is precisely the absence of normativity, the negation of normativity. That is what we want to be normative here, sort of paradoxically speaking. And this place only works, or it works best. I don't want to say it only works, that's too definitive. It works best the more we lean into that, both individually and collectively. So I want to throw up some of these lyrics again. They're going to look cool in orange and yellow now instead of just black, so that's fun. You taught me the courage of stars before you left. Pause. I think it's fun to imagine different candidates for who this song is referring to. I mean, the obvious one is Jesus, classic youth pastor. I used to be a youth pastor, so, what's the answer? The answer is Jesus, obviously. But I want to emphasize that, at least for me, I'll speak for only myself here. Obviously, yeah, this song could very comfortably refer to Jesus, and I'm down with that. But this song also refers to you, in a sense, in the sense that all of you together, the staff, the congregation, those who have been part of this community, at least in the time that I've been here, those who have moved on, and yet their legacy remains. You, the royal you, the collective you, taught me these things. It is in this space, what the Apostle Paul refers to as the body of Christ, that the lyrics of this song were embodied, incarnated, brought to life. That's probably how I like to think about it most. And this notion of the courage of stars, there's an irony to it, actually. Paul, Jesus, pretty important people in the Christian faith. They lived a long time ago, right? And I don't know what they told you in Southern Baptist Church, but I'm going to say something a little different than that right now. Their world picture, their understanding of the universe, of the cosmos, of cosmology was very, very different than ours. And so what they thought stars were angelic beings, powers, principalities, these spiritual beings. And then Paul's notion of resurrection, which we can probably assume Jesus shared in his time on earth, Paul's notion of resurrection was that we would, the term is astralization, astral, stars, we would eventually become like those astral beings, those stars that we see in the sky. And the irony is, at least scientifically, Paul mostly had it right. Over the course of millions, hundreds of millions, perhaps even billions of years, the matter that makes up our universe, our bodies, our organs, our minds, is star matter. It's stars, hundreds of millions of years, died, and their sacrifice created us. Did God have a part in that? I would say so. I'll talk about that more in a second. But at least scientifically speaking, that's what we think. And then, long after we're gone, the same thing is going to happen again. And what the universe does with that, what God does with that, regardless of your convictions, your beliefs, your theories about the afterlife and in eternity, I don't know, I hope we get the chance to find out. But how life carries on endlessly after death. I don't know, that's powerful to me. I'll hop to the next one real quick, the next lyric. I think we have another slide. Yeah. With shortness of breath, you explained the infinite. I mean, when we think about God, we're thinking about the infinite. But within the Jewish and Christian tradition, there is this notion of us being made in the image of God. Colossians talks about being made in the image of the invisible God in reference to Jesus, but then Paul also talks about the fact that, and I made a reference to this before, the fact that all of us together we are the body of Christ, and in the absence of the physical body of Christ, in this negation, in this void formed when Christ leaves, the Holy Spirit rushes in, and the Spirit is in many ways embodying and indicative, the all of us together. Our usness, our togetherness is what incarnates and what is what brings and embodies God here on earth, the body of Christ, the form of Christ. And so on some level, that notion of Christ being the image of the invisible God, of Christ being this divine word, this divine logos, the way that God self-describes God's self is now, it's true of Jesus, but it's also true of the church. It's also true of the body of Christ. And so at least for me, it's meaningful to think about the fact that whatever we mean by the infinite, it has to be inclusive in some way of us. It has to be inclusive some way of the way that all of us together embody and represent and incarnate and bring to life the body of Christ. We repeat the existence of Christ in some way. We participate in the divine in some way. And of course, this is consistent with the Hebrew Bible, with the Old Testament and what it tells us, being made in the image of God and in some way reflecting or mediating on behalf of God in creation. And I can go, literally this is the way my mind works, I can go in like 19 different directions now, and I'm trying to decide in real time which direction to take us. The creation narrative. The creation narrative is interesting, and I know for many folks, deconstruction or whatever we want to call this journey, where maybe the old ways of belief, the old ways of experiencing our faith don't work anymore, and then, many people long for, this path of reconstruction. What does it look like to reclaim, to land again in a place of confidence or even certainty? And many of you who have been here for a while know that we are probably maddeningly resistant to that, maddeningly resistant to giving you a new sense of certainty, but very much encouraging and inviting even you to stay in sort of this realm of disruption, this realm of faith, but at the same time sympathetic to the fact that can be exhausting, can be terrifying to kind of stay in that space. And so I say all that just to name that for many of us, the creation narrative, the creation story in Genesis is, for many of us, maybe that was sort of like the first thread in the sweater to begin to pull. Like maybe we learned about like what modern science says, how it says that the earth isn't just 6,000 years old, and maybe we began to look at the text a little more clearly, and some of these genealogies don't actually add up or make sense even within the context that we were explained to them in our original faith community. And we begin to wonder, how might it work? Does God participate in maybe the evolutionary process, or what does that look like when it comes to some of these big cosmic things around, like, the creation of stars and planets and some of the stuff that the song was making reference to earlier? And how does this all work? And it can create uncertainty and insecurity, and it can create doubt. And again, for many of us, maybe that was the beginning of this journey, this process. Call it deconstruction, reconstruction, call it an evolution, call it faith. But for me, the most important part of the creation story, it's not, at least at this stage in my journey, it's not that wrestling between the matter, the physical part of the story. It's not me trying to make sense of the mystery of, where does the divine fit into the scientific, and what role or what level of involvement did God have actively over the course of however long to bring these things about. That's the matter part. The part that's most interesting to me at this stage in my life is the part that explains why the matter matters. The meaning, the significance. The explanation of the infinite is found less in where God fits into, cosmological phenomena over the course of millennia, and more in our ability to experience creation, to make meaning out of it, our ability to grieve when certain expressions of matter move on, when they die, our ability to make sense of this grief, of this lament, our ability to find joy in spite of what is often felt like an unforgiving, chaotic cosmos. For me, the most powerful, perhaps the most meaningful part of the creation story is not trying to make sense of, the 7 days and the science behind it, but it's the declaration at the end of each day that this is good. It's the point where God declares that the matter matters. It's the point where meaning is woven and sewn into the mess, where God metaphorically, literally, we all have different theologies, but, where God takes a step back and says, oh, I see it now. This is good. This is a good picture. I like this. And then where God empowers, bestows, grants the stewardship of this meaning making to us. To explain the infinite, I think, is perhaps less about metaphysics. It's less about defining the relationship between the Godhead and the members of the Trinity, as fun as that is, and believe me, I very much enjoy that. But it's less about these things that scholars and folks have debated for centuries, or at least it's not just about those things. It's also about the messiness of humanity. The infinite is about our ability to find infinite meaning and infinite possibility out of oftentimes what feels like, in our lowest moments, out of nothing. It's our ability to create something out of nothing. Creation ex nihilo, from nothing, which is how many of us were taught to understand God's creative act cosmologically. Our image-bearingness, our reflection of the divine, I'm suggesting to you this morning, is found first and foremost in our ability to see infinite possibility in creation, and including in the pinnacle of creation, in one another. And so, theologically speaking, it would literally make no sense for there to be a normative expression of what does it mean to be part of this community. It would literally make no sense for there to be a normative expression of what it means to be human. It would literally make no sense for us to stand up here in any capacity, literal or figurative, and impose upon you a particular way to express the image of the invisible God within you. Because that's not the infinite. That's the finite. That's a puzzle. We are much more than that, infinitely more than that. The bridge of the song talks about new wine in old wineskins, a metaphor, a parable that Jesus uses in his own teaching. The basic idea is that, like, if we're merely trying to modify what is and sort of make it work with the new, and it'll burst, it'll break down, it'll collapse. New creation demands something new. And that's what we're called to do here. We're called to bring forth new creation. That's the work that we get to do as a community. And that's hard. In fact, oftentimes, saying something that's never been said before, saying something new, it's disruptive, it's confusing, it's alienating. We don't have an anchor, it can cause us to retreat into old expressions, into old forms. And I want to be careful here. Not all of those old expressions and those old forms are categorically problematic. At times there's an opportunity to translate, to bring into new expression things that were deeply meaningful or beautiful in the old expression. But at the same time, we cannot lose sight of the fact that our gift, our mandate, our opportunity as humans who are also divine, made in the divine's image, reflecting of the divine image, is to create, to bring about something beautifully and fundamentally new. Which to me makes sense of that last piece of the lyrics that I want to show to you this morning, the part that's talking about why the universe was made. How rare and beautiful it is to even exist. And then the line about the universe being made to be seen with our eyes. Making the matter matter. Bringing a kind of meaning, ex nihilo, meaning out of nothing. Normatively, that's what it means to be part of this community. That's what it means to be part of Watershed. And anti-normatively, there is no normative way to do that. And in fact, our programs, our talks, our everything about this community is necessarily deeply informed by the infinite diversity, the infinite possibility, the infinite levels of difference found within all of you. And then the beautiful thing is when you sort of reflect that back to one another and you recognize, pieces, like picture like a giant Venn diagram. There's both overlap, but also difference and sort of a yes, kind of like that, but not exactly like that. It's what we mean, what I mean. When we talk about this notion of both and so to be a part of this community, I mean, I would argue to be a part of the community of humanity, but that's ambitious. So to be a part of this particular spiritual community, I want you to know a few things. Know that it is our constant desire, and it's a constant point of conversation within our staff, our pastoral team, our lead team, which is the elders, the people who create accountability here, between our teaching team, between key volunteer leaders, many of whom are you in this room. It is a constant point of conversation of how do we make this work for the diversity of experiences and folks in this room. Know that. Know that we value disruption here, but not disruption for the sake of disruption. We're not trying to be cheeky. We're not trying to be jerks. There is something generative. There is something creative about being able to clear the stage so that something new can be performed in the wake of what was. Know that we never, ever want to push you beyond where you have consented to or feel comfortable going. So know that as best as we can, we are always going to try to make ourselves collectively and individually accessible so that you can say, hold up, pump the brakes. I'm not ready to go there. This is where I am. We want to hear that, and we want to be inclusive of that. Know that we have no desire as a community to create some sort of like binary, hierarchical way of exploring God, of exploring the divine, of exploring the infinite. This only works with you and with all of us together. I promise you, and I'm not just saying this, I learn as much from you as I hope you occasionally learn from me. And so at a very practical level, know that our plans for this coming season, we talk about the campaign and the finances and the sustainability. In the next few months, we're going to begin to really dial down and focus on the volunteer aspect and what does it look like for all of us to collectively carry and own this work together. And that's all important, the practical minutia, the details. But know that from like a narrative standpoint, from a spiritual standpoint, our hope in this season is that we're making meaning together. We're exploring the infinite together. We are introducing one another to why the matter of the universe matters. And so to close this morning, I'll invite the band back up. They can do the cool thing where they like play under me or whatever. I just want to point out some opportunities. This is gonna, my lane, my niche is often like talking in like really flowery language about like space and metaphysical things and stuff like that. I'm not going to end there. I'm going to end super, super practically right now. We have some opportunities starting in the coming weeks for you to do what I've been describing this morning concretely. First off, let me say before I dive into what's on the screen, if you're new here, and like we've acknowledged, there's a lot of you who are new here, go to Preface, start there, go hang out with Matt. He's a walking dad joke. It's going to be really corny, really Kentucky-y. And it's going to be a great opportunity, like Madeline alluded to make some friends, to meet some folks, to really understand both theologically but also relationally what we're about here. Do that. Join the regional collectives. Meet the people who live near you, because this work is hard and is done best in community. But if you've done all that, I mean, keep doing the regional collectives thing. But if you've done Preface, I would invite you to jump into one or more of these opportunities. We have 3 experiences this fall that I think are going to be really meaningful. Nice. The first one is a book club around Sonia Renee Taylor's book, The Body Is Not an Apology. And if you're looking for a resource that gets into why matter, in particular your matter, the matter that makes up your body, if you're looking for a resource that gets into why that matter matters, join this experience. It's going to be led by Melissa and Tim Gremore and Miko Shimoda, who are going to be lovely, lovely facilitators for you. It's a little long, so you buckle up, 10 weeks, but it's that long because they believe the material deserves that level of caution, attention, meditation. It's going to be a great experience. That's going to be Thursday nights here at Watershed in the evening. In just a moment, there's going to be QR codes on the screen. You can sign up for these. All of this is already live on our app. It's going to be on our website, so you'll have plenty of opportunities to sign up. But that's the first one I want to draw your attention to. The second one is going to be a completely digital exploration of the Enneagram. And yes, we've heard you. We talk about the Enneagram way too much, and half of you don't know what we're talking about. The Enneagram is an ancient tool. It's a tool that in many ways allows us to see each other, to make sense of the ways that we embody different aspects of the infinite, of the divine. It's a tool that allows us to relate to one another in more authentic and meaningful ways. And if that sounds awesome to you, then you're going to be in good hands with our friend Kelly Parmley, who is a certified, licensed Enneagram guru. And she's going to be leading us over the course of 4 weeks in November into an exploration of this. There's an info session on October 11th at the same time. It's going to be Wednesdays on Zoom. So if you know you want to jump in, you can skip that. But if you're kind of curious, if you kind of want an introduction, meet Kelly online and kind of see if this is something you want to jump into, then you can sign up and you'll get reminders for the info session as well. And then lastly, there's another book called After Evangelicalism by David Gushee. And this is maybe our most bread and butter offering when it comes to this whole deconstruction, reconstruction experience. I know that not all of you are necessarily coming out of evangelicalism, but I know that many, if not most of you are, and it can be disorienting. And so this book, over the course of 6 weeks with 2 amazing leaders, John and Teresa Rausch, you're going to get to explore what does it look like to pick up the pieces and to imagine a new kind of Christianity or spirituality more broadly. And that's going to be a real powerful experience as well. You can throw up the QR codes, leave those up for a few minutes, let people sign up for those if you want. Like I said, you're going to have lots of opportunities to sign up, but please jump in. Please do this, because this is the slow work of what it means to explore the infinite together, what it means to reclaim. Not only what does it mean to be divine, but what does it mean to be human? The slow work of all of us together forming a bigger picture, something more beautiful, something that we can trust that God says is very good, but I think more importantly, something that we have been invited to, empowered to, and given the ability to step back, look at one another, and declare, yeah, I like this. This is very good. Grace and peace to you this morning.
As we close this morning, would you stand and let's sing together?
Oh, the vapor of it all. It's pale and thin, we will set our hearts on you again. Heaven taunts the hearts of men. We can feel it from within, the beauty of it all, the mystery, the swelling of a voice, a rising sea. Holy, you, O God, are holy. Streets clap their hands for you, oceans they dance for you. You are holy. The mystery of it all, I could never clear within, could never find the words or understand the fullness of God become a man. Holy, you, O God, are holy. Trees clap their hands, oceans they dance for you. You are holy, infinite and holy. A billion suns rise for you, clouds paint the skies for you, mountains stand tall for you, valleys bow down to you, everything rises, sing all our songs for you.
The impossible and holy. The kings become fools for you, kingdoms to ruins for you. Vapor finds ground in you, music finds sound for you. The kings become fools for you, kingdoms to ruins for you. Vapor finds ground in you, music finds sound
this morning.